What's up? Hello, everyone. Glad y'all could join us today. Uh, 1 week closer. I forgot to get the sign, Steve. But
Is it at least updated?
oh yeah, it's updated. I updated. I updated. I've gotten to where I do it at night before I go in the house. I go ahead and prep it for the next day.
Oh, so you cheat a little.
Yeah, so it's that way I don't forget because I have forgotten a couple times. But the closer it's getting, the less I forget. I don't know why that is. But
Yeah.
hope everybody's happy, merry, and safe, and all that good stuff after the Fourth of July weekend. A lot of bad stuff in the news this week, so let's keep those folks in your prayers. That was a terrible situation in Texas that unfolded on Fourth of July. So
Yeah.
I hate it for the families affected by it, but I also hate it for those folks that's having to go out there and participate in those rescue/recovery missions because that's gonna leave a mark. Not just the loss of life, but that's something different when you start and have to go into that kind of recovery. So that place is gonna need some love.
Yep. So, well, I decided to come inside and cool off for this show, so I'm not out in the shop.
Look at my sign.
It's been summer up here. past couple weeks, hot and humid. So, but I have been working out in the shop this weekend, getting ready. So both of us received the Sane Smart 3020 about the same time, but I had a couple other things going on, and then they said, "Well, hey, why don't you hold off till the Prime Day sales?" I don't know what they're going to have for sales, but they wanted me to post video right around then. So I've been doing a little more work with the 3020. What do they call it? The 3020 Pro Ultra or the anyway?
Yeah, 30 pretty Pro Ultra. Yeah,
So
that's right.
so and that's out in the main shop, and this is the few weeks of the year that I regret having to spend time out there because it gets warm fast.
Hashtag Steve needs a mini split.
Yeah, well, but yeah, that having fun with that machine and purely using Cody's bits with it, and everything from the 1/8" downtown mini Jennies to some of the new bits, even a bit that isn't released yet, but he said go ahead and use it because it'll be soon. Stout little machine, having some fun with it. But yeah, definitely been sweating this weekend out there. But
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel down here in the cozy, what is it, 70-degree basement.
Ooh. Well, luckily for me, I do have a mini split, but it's steel because my building out here, it is a shack, so therefore it is not the R value of this building is not great. So in the heat of the day, it does get up to like 85. I think I hit 87 in here the other day, and currently it is at 82.4. So I've got because I do have a mini split. I've got it set to 68, but it ain't. It just ain't. All it's doing at this point is just being a dehumidifier.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it is doing that because I've only at 38% relative humidity in here, which is really good, but it's not cool at all. Like it's better than it would be without it because like outside in my kiln where I keep my wood, my project materials and stuff. There's no air conditioning out there, and it's 105.4 degrees in there currently with 33% humidity. So it's a good thing I'm not out there. So, but for the other, 8-9 months out of the year, the mini split works great. But it's just this time of the year, it's just not quite enough.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing is I'm hovering around 60% humidity out in the shop right now. So
it makes it sweat just.
Yeah, and admittedly, I mean, I think it's well insulated and it gets shaded. It does cool down a bit overnight, but I also don't want to open up too many doors and windows, let bugs in, because then we end up with cricket
Yeah, you've had the cricket in there. What was that? Cricket was in all your videos for like 3 months.
But yeah, it gets up into the low 80s in the shop, and then up there in stupid humidity. So this is the time of year, the corn sweat. It starts getting bad as the corn gets up a little bit taller. Just if you ever go into a cornfield in the middle of summer up here, you make it out, because that is something else.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like I said, if my building was better insulated and didn't have this big 16-foot aluminum, well, it's not aluminum, I guess it's steel, this big 16-foot steel door on the front of it, it would probably stay a lot cooler in here. And I've even thought about trying to get me like some of those moving blankets and some real thick magnets and covering it with those as like a makeshift insulation. Even thought about building like a little wall, that's on legs to do it.
So what's the BTU rating of your mini split? Is that 12,000 or?
Don't make me lie. Hang on, let me go look at the sticker.
Yeah, because I've been looking at some, but from the heating aspect, of course, they recommend a little bit higher as well.
And, 1 ton, 12,000 BTU.
12,000. Yeah, I've been looking at the 18,000.
I should have went with a 1.5, but there was, when I went to looking from a 1 to a 1.5, like budget wise, it was like boom. And so I was like, I think a 1 ton will work. And I did the calculations, height, ceiling, no door, only one door with a garage door and all that. But this is not your residential 8-foot garage door. It's a 16-foot by 10-foot, barrel door. And so I didn't account for that. So I've even thought about, if I stay in here long term, if I don't build another building to use as my office / studio / workshop or whatever. Because what I've considered is when I retire, just build me another building for storage and overflow and just keep this one. Just keep rocking this one. Save my money. And if I do that, I may end up putting in another mini split and just have 2 of them, have one in the front, one in the back. Because that way it'd be twice as much, so it can handle it better. But we'll see.
Well, I've been looking at them. The ones that are recommended for me right now are the 18,000 to cover the size and the height and the temperature range. But now I'm talking about at least a 20 amp, 240 volt circuit, and I don't know. I got to look at some of the electrical stuff I've done out there and see if I can shuffle things around, because I'd hate to put that in there and then all of a sudden start tripping things because I don't have the amperage overall for everything I'm running out there too. So
well, see, here I'm on my own. This is an individual service out here. Now I am limited by the box on the pole, which I think is a 200 amp, because it was basically the pole or the box and the meter base and everything is the construction setup from when we built the house. So, we had to have power put over here for the builders to use to build the house. So we went and bought, I think it was a 200 amp panel with the whole setup. Mm-hmm. And when we got the house built, of course, they just cut it loose and left it sitting there. Well, I reclaimed it and wound up using it out here when I put power to the shop, because I still had it in storage. And so I could upgrade that box and add more in here, because like I said, it's got its own drop. I pay my own power bill for the shop out here, which is usually only around 150 to 160 bucks with the mini split running all the time. And that's why I had thought about, I could add another mini split to this, or either I could just easily add a window unit for those really hot days, just to kind of subsidize during the hot days. And then the rest of the year, it works fine. I'd say 300 days out of the year, the mini split handles it great. But it's those few cold days we get in the winter and those quite a few really hot days in the summer that it's like, okay, I wish I had more. You know what I mean? So I don't really want to spend a lot of money upgrading it, because it's really only about probably a total of 60 days a year that it's not, within acceptable ranges. Like today, like I'm sweating in the bend of my knees today because it's gotten to that threshold where it's starting to be almost too hot.
Well, that's kind of the same thing for me, is that we're getting, we get about another 2 to 3 weeks of really kind of humid, more stormy type weather, and then it starts drying off. So then the humidity starts dropping a little bit, but the cornfields and lakes and everything tend to hold a lot of that. And then it generally starts cooling off. So I'm kind of the inverse of like, there's a month and a half, give or take, of where I'd need it. Whereas in the winter, I don't know. In talking to places that they do a job to a point, but I don't know. So we'll see. It's just a lot of stuff to sort out for a short time. And
well, I will say this: the money that I spent on my mini split since I put it in, the best money I ever spent. Because if you go back and watch some of my really early videos where like I'm soaking wet with sweat and I got my sweat rag on my shoulder and everything, and you just see it looks like I'm about to have a heat stroke any minute.
Yeah,
it was hot out here trying to do work. And then as the business got to where it was bigger and bigger, I was being forced to stay out here to get jobs done. And I wound up, at the ER with a kidney stone because I was dehydrating so fast. And so when I went to buy the air conditioner, I told Brandy, I was like, I think I want to get a mini split put in the shop. She's like, okay. And it's kind of rare for my wife to not like at least hesitate slightly at me spending, $1,500. But she's like, at this point, I would consider that a safety purchase. So I'm good with it.
Because
I did. Like I said, I went and had to have a kidney stone related hospital visit during the time of all this renovations and stuff like that.
And for me, it's just the reorganization of stuff to install it where I feel I should. It's a bit of it's moving some things around, and then the electrical. It's just because I'm running a sub panel off our main house, and we're probably pushing the limit.
Yeah, you don't want to start a house fire.
Well, no, and you don't want to like start, having brownouts because you're pulling too much power across your whole thing too. So
the air conditioner and the planer happen to be on at the same time as the dust collection, and all of a sudden you're in the dark.
Right. Yeah.
I used to have those issues before I did some rewiring because years and years ago I had a buried like 20, I think it was a 15, it may have been a 15. It was a 15 amp breaker. I had a buried service coming from the house to here. And that's all I had, just for some lights and a couple of plugs. And then as I started getting into woodworking and buying tools, it got to where that just wasn't working. Like it wouldn't, like you could buy a saw and it wouldn't even spin because the voltage was so low. And that's when I wound up having to get the service put out here.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm trying to balance is, how, I mean, because we still have above ground utilities in my neighborhood because our neighborhood is so old. It wouldn't be terribly it wouldn't have been terribly expensive to add it back when I built the garage shop, but that was 17 years ago.
Yeah.
So I probably could add separate service to it, but then, you
get that monthly bill.
Well, you get
that's the only bad thing.
I'm paying for it. It would increase it a little bit, but it's I don't know. Part of the problem is we kept thinking about moving for a while, and so I'm like, well, I don't want to spend a bunch of money on electrical service and putting this other stuff in, and I kind of feel like 5 years ago I should have just done it.
Maybe you could partner with some solar power company and put in auxiliary power for some of the other less critical stuff.
I'd have to cut down all my neighbors' trees first because.
Oh, okay. Well, there went that.
I'd only get sun part of the morning, and then our roof lines face the wrong way too, so they're east west instead of north and south. So they don't. Well, it'd be hard to mount them to where they're going to get the optimal sunlight. It's just I've thought about that. I've even thought about playing around with little solar heaters in the winter. But
well, I will say this: it wasn't really because of solar panels, but when we built our house, I had the builder orient the house to where the front faces south and the back faces north. I did it more or less because of the way the roof was built, the weather. Typically, the strong winds and stuff that we get come kind of out of the southwest from where I'm at. And so I felt like positioning the house like that would cut down on the possibility of roof damage from wind, as well as it would protect the house better from sun and all that. But yeah, I have my front roof of my house would be the perfect place for solar panels, because it's almost a 43 degrees, I think it is here where I'm at. It's almost like a 43-degree angle on the roof. So, but it would not look pretty, and so I don't know that my wife would go for it just yet.
Well,
but it would be almost perfect angle for solar panels.
Yeah. Oh, anyway,
who's got time for that right now? Yeah, Jeffrey, I agree. I would rather have my mini split than a UV printer currently, because it gets hot, and I don't work well when I'm not comfortable. I like to be comfortable.
Well, and the other thing is I do have the option of I can't bring my table saw and all that stuff down here, but I've got, my smaller basement work area and such. So that's kind of the other thing. I'm like, well, so for a few weeks in the year, I only work out there a few hours a day, and then I bring the stuff down here. And that's the other thing. I've been really thinking about reorganizing my basement area so that I've got a better layout for the galvos, got better layout for air exhaust, and can drop in, swap out machines as need to test them or work on them for people or whatever. So that it's just a number of things that kind of go, well, it's a lot of hassle to put it in for a few weeks to a couple months, but yeah,
Jeffrey
doesn't mean I won't complain about it. It's we like to.
You've got 3 different work areas. You can make it work, I'm sure.
Well, 2.5.
But Jeffrey's saying that his shop is an 8x10 bedroom in his house, but he's spreading out to the rest of the house. that is definitely smaller space than what I'm working with here. So,
well, if the boys ever move out, I have a feeling between my wife and I, the whole house is just going to become like a big old maker space.
Crafting spots. Yeah, didn't you say you had to outfit your wife a room the other day? Y'all had some she's over who gets what space.
She's been doing some more sewing and other things. She's been making some pretty cool bags. As a matter of fact, I did use the UV laser to make some custom badges for her on some fabric, and she just needed some better space for organization and work height and such. So we took an expensive trip to get some lifting workbench type things and storage stuff. But, yeah, basically one of those and big tool chest.
Yeah, and one of those, but different color.
Yeah, I mean they're both white. It's what Home Depot had, and it was kind of one of these things like we're buying this today kind of situations. So
yeah, this one came from Home Depot. This is the Husky. Yeah. That one. What is wrong with you? Oh, you done found a wasp? Hang on a minute. Biscuit done stirred up a wasp over there. I don't know where he found it at. He come running over here at me like something got him. It did get him. Well, I don't know where it went. Look, it went to the cat door. Did it get you on the face, buddy? Hang on, let me deal with this situation.
Mark P1S. Well, it's sitting up right there. So I brought it down here, got it set up, printed out. Of course, had to do a quick benchy, and then I printed out had to do the poop chute thing. So found one online. Other than that, haven't run too much through it just yet, but I'm liking it. I did order based on some of the feedback from people last week, some of the Vauxhall air filters and such, and some of their PLA to try out. Haven't gotten any shipping notification on that yet. And then I went with the regular AMS. It doesn't have the active heating. So we'll see how that goes. But I also see that I think it's Sunlu is coming out with a module that replaces the front cover on the regular AMS and adds drying as well. So it'll be fun to start working with this one and seeing what comes of it. So yeah. I'll have to make a sign, but gotta get the boys out of college and on their own first.
Come on. Come here.
Let's see. Yeah, I've heard good things about it, and so I ordered a few colors to give it a shot, and excited to try that out. Tim recently moved my laser shop to the basement because of harsh higher winter. Yeah, higher winters in summers. You're pretty close to where I'm at in southern Minnesota here, I'm sure, as far as similar weather. And yeah, it is nice being able to work in some comfort. And I'm glad we have basements around here. Not everywhere does. Did you kill it?
Yeah, I got it, but he's scared to death now. He likes to eat bugs, and my guess is that he grabbed that one and bit down on it.
Oh yeah,
he's rubbing his face and licking his lips a lot.
That'll happen.
And it was one of those big orange wasps. So yeah, those things hurt. Oh my gosh, they hurt. I was gonna let him in to where I could like keep an eye on him, make sure he don't start swelling too bad. But he's scared to come back in now. But yeah, I killed it. It's dead.
So Jerry, I don't run. I mean, occasionally I'll test a printer out there, but that's why I brought this one in here. It's just I can't control the humidity out there as well. So in down here in the basement, it stays around 45 to 50% humidity pretty much year round. And then I have a couple of filament dryers. So it's more stable down here, both temperature and humidity wise. I'll unbox and do some initial tests on them on the shop just because it's easier to work around. And sometimes if I'm filming it, I just have more space, but generally I'm running them down here.
Yep. I missed it. Have you got the P1S up and going yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Right there. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I think I remember you telling me that now that you.
Yeah, I've only I did the obligatory benchy test and then I printed out a poop chute for it to collect all the filament it likes to dump out.
Yeah. All right, I think he wants to come back in now. Let me see if he come in.
Hey Dave, glad you made it back. I've had people, friends use Starlink. They love it, but yeah, they say it's definitely weather dependent at times. If you get extreme weather, it tends to block it out.
I thought a cat had got him, but he don't like he looked terrified. Like the cats don't usually bother him; they'll smack him, but he's just kind of like, okay, whatever. But he come running at me. He looked terrified. He's like, something got me. And I look over there and I see this big red wasp or orange wasp about that big crawling up the side of the door where he ran from. He's over there now looking around. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how it got in here. Maybe it crawled through the cat door.
This is Zentero says he doesn't need to run a heater in the winter, just 3D printers. I do notice though, like down here when I'm running stuff in the winter, because it can get a little chilly in here if I don't. I usually have like a small space heater that helps give some auxiliary heat down here. Because otherwise, house is old enough. This is like a one zone HVAC system. So upstairs, basement, kind of get the main floor is kind of temperate. And then it's depending on how things are. I mean, I can manually open and close some vents, but yeah, that's a fair amount of heat coming off some of them. And that's the thing in my shop today, because you'd be surprised how much heat gets generated by just simple shop vacs running. And so when I'm running that for dust extraction on that little Saint Smart, it's putting out a fair amount of heat. As a matter of fact, when I used to run my open builds Ox CNC, I had a vacuum table that was run by a fine dust collector, which had a bypass so you wouldn't burn out the motor, but then it also had a second fine dust collector for the actual dust collection. So I was running two of them, and between that and the machine running and me being in the shop, you could see the temperature rise pretty quickly from that, which was nice in the winter, not so nice in the summer.
Yeah, it's like yesterday when I was running those tumblers. I was running them over here on the table behind me and using the 6-inch fan up there to pull from the We Create. And my brother-in-law came over. He's like, dude, it's hot in here. Why is it so hot? And I'm like, well, for the past hour or so, I've had a 6-inch column of air being sucked out of the building. And in doing so, I've got 6 each column of air coming in through all these cracks and crevices. That's 96 degrees from outside.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that people don't realize is no matter how good your air conditioning and stuff is, when you start venting like that, it can warm you up. It got a little warm in here yesterday. Like I said, we were actually like sweating in here.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, I wasn't, like I say, I was little lower temperature, but higher humidity than you. And I was,
yeah.
I even forced, so I've been trying to, I try to make myself take a break around, it depends on the season, but usually like 8 to 9 o'clock, I try to take a break and get myself to do some walking, because otherwise I am between day job and then working in the shop. You're just not doing cardio.
Yeah.
So I did it later last night, just to let it cool off. And yeah, between the two of those, I was sweating when I left the shop, and then I just sweat some more on my walk. I just need to get past this season.
Yeah. Well, luckily for me, it can be really, really hot here, but where my house is, you've seen it. I'm kind of on the southwest side of the hill that's behind my house.
Yeah, you get the little reprieve from the sun.
Breeze and our wind comes out of the southwest. So most afternoons, as you start getting that, that convection starts moving things around, we usually end up with a thunderstorm. Sometimes they're not real bad, but it's just enough to get a breeze going. And it's a lot more noticeable where I live than it is in some of like the valleys and the areas down around the creeks and stuff like that. Because there, it's just the air, like you're talking about in that cornfield, the air just sits on top of you, and it makes it miserable. Well,
yeah, we're down in a valley, the river valley, so
yeah,
we don't always get the same wind, and I don't know, the storms are weird here, because I was waiting yesterday for a storm to blow through, and it just never really percolated. So then all that energy stays in the air. So
yeah.
But
what's up, Cody? Steve's been trying to break your bits the past couple of days.
Yep. Not successful yet.
Robbie says thoughts on the new F2 Ultra. We talked about XO coming out with something new last Sunday, and the next day they did. Yeah, it looks cool. Like I said, me and Steve aren't really in the cool kids club when it comes to that stuff right now. I don't know that, I don't know that we won't one day get one, but we didn't get one of the first ones for sure. It seems cool. It is a bit pricey, but if you look at, the price of a Mopa, Mopas aren't cheap anyway. It does have some things that most of your Mopas don't have. The biggest thing I would say is probably an advantage for most people is if you're not real comfortable with light burn and the way that galvos work with light burn and you're used to XCS, that would probably be a big selling point because Mopas can require adjustment. Mopas require a lot of different settings and stuff like that. So the infrastructure of X Tool around the machine, to some people, I think will justify the added cost. I don't know that the 40-watt blue diode would be cool for like doing tumblers and stuff like that, but they talk about how much material it can cut. I really wouldn't be pushing that machine for cutting because, one, you don't have air assist. So it's not that, to me, that's kind of like that's like trying to say an F-250 can run 600 miles an hour. Nobody cares about that. We don't know how much it tows. It's just, that machine to me is not what somebody's going to be getting that wants to be cutting a lot of material. But I do think for like tumblers, engraving, wood, cork, stuff like that, a 40-watt is going to do it really, really fast. So I think it is going to uptick the level of production over the F2 Ultra.
F1 Ultra.
Yeah, F1 Ultra. So I think you're going to get a little bit added speed and ability to turn stuff out fast. But I think you're going to have to just make that decision. Is that speed worth it to you? Because I've got a Mopa. I've got one sitting right here. And I've got another one sitting over there. And this whole making color thing, it's a gimmick. I mean, yes, you can do it. You can. If you wanted to do it and do like a cool project, and you could, but there's no way. If somebody told me, hey, I want 100 of these and I want the engraved to be blue. How much you going to charge me? I'm not going to bid that because there's too many variables that the engraved may not be blue, and I'm going to wind up eating a bunch of blanks. So I think from a business perspective, I don't worry about the blue or the red or the pinks or anything like that. So as long as you're just wanting it for the faster speeds and maybe the updated, features, I think it'd be a good machine. But I don't know as far as that. That's just my assumptions. Xtool makes good products. Their software is fairly robust. It was in the early days. It was kind of sketchy, but it's gotten worse. A very robust software. I don't use it for design a whole lot because I just don't want to have to learn another software. But I think it's a very usable machine. But it is a little pricier than what most folks are used to for a hobby level machine. But
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I think it's decent for what you're getting, but I just don't know how many people are going to want to spend that much. That's the thing that you have to decide.
So yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you say there. As far as the value, I mean, I think we're all used to Xtool coming out recently with some high-end machines and get a little sticker shock. And as you just said, this isn't a laser for someone looking to add it to their hobby unless you just have money to burn and your hobbies are bigger than mine. But that being said, I don't. If you look at it just from the you can get it two different ways. You can get it just as the MOPA, the 60-watt MOPA, or you can get it with the 60-watt MOPA and the 40-watt blue diode. If you look at the straight 60-watt MOPA version, now we don't know what the laser source is per se, so it's hard to compare apples to apples. There are some cheaper ones out there, but in a 60-watt MOPA, you're looking at probably about $3,500 just to get into it at the cheapest one that
that's bare bones.
Yeah, that's but average price for a lot of these is around $4,000, and they're asking their intro price. And this is another thing that kind of bugs me is there's two or three companies that came out with very similar things this week, and they're all saying world's first. Just stop with the world's first. We don't care about world's first. We care about make a better mousetrap, even if it is after the other person's. The other thing is the software is something that I think that you're right. Xtool has put some time into it, and that's where I'm curious about the color, because they've made things like image manipulation very easy in their software. You don't have to, it kind of uses its own algorithms, and you don't have to do a lot of extra touch up. As a matter of fact, I prefer XCS over Lightburn. Just without any other helper applications, it does better at engraving photos. So I'm curious to see where it lands with that. If they've made that improvement to the algorithm for color on stainless steel, like if you can put in certain parameters of thickness and type and have it make a better educated guess, then I think they have something. Other than that, yeah, you're going to be, there's a lot of variables that are going to change throughout the day, even and such. But going back to the value of the laser, you got to take into account it is a little larger working area than most, because a lot of them are 150 square. This one's 220.
Yeah.
You've got a built-in enclosure, whereas most of these Galvo style lasers,
the camera's cool. I like the camera.
They're open, and you got to worry about that as far as, do I have my goggles handy? Are they on? Is someone going to walk into my shop? An enclosure helps add that layer of safety. Also, the particulate. A lot of us aren't necessarily good about putting on respirators and such. So I think from a safety standpoint, it's better. The cameras are higher quality than most. I still don't trust the auto placement of things.
No, but it's a good tool.
But for dialing it in and getting it close on a one-off, I think it's pretty good. So I think it's their pricing from the get-go Now if it they always say this is going to be the best price, and then by the time it gets out in retail, it's like 5% more.
Yeah, I think
Get that.
they try to drive a lot of traffic in the beginning so that they
Yeah.
feel more comfortable in releasing the product or whatever. But yeah,
But if the price stays where it's at, I kind of feel like the price is justified for what you're seeing in other 60-watt Mopas, considering larger work area,
yeah,
enclosure, maybe better cameras on it. So my gut reaction was like, oh wow, you know, a $4,300 laser. Here we go, another expensive X tool thing. But then as I started looking at comparable Mopas, I'm like, okay, they're not that far off.
yeah. It's not so much. Like I said, my thing. I don't for what you're getting. It's not a terrible deal. I just think that for the average hobby user, that's a big jump.
Yeah,
Just like any other, like the Omni One is a big jump for your average hobbyist. Like that, unless, like you said, unless you're a hobbyist that takes it serious, and you know you've got a good paying job or a good revenue stream, and you just want one. I mean, go get it. I mean, I know guys that spend ridiculous amounts of money on other hobbies, but you know, I don't think it's for everyone uh, to be able to get it. I mean, because you know, I can hey, I can remember having to sneak around with, you know, my first X Tool D1 and order it, you know, and that was nowhere near as expensive. So I can see where, I'm not saying that it's not a value at the price point, but I think it's a little bit of a jump for your average hobbyist.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going from hobby into business and you're batching out things and trying to do high productivity, then yeah, okay, maybe you want to spend that extra. But if you're going to buy one of these, like you said, if you're going to buy one of these Mopas, it's at that point, to me, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Because by the time you buy a fan, by the time you buy this, by the time you buy that, I mean, yeah, it's not that big of a difference. But I have, as far as how it works, how it acts with the interface and all that, I can't speak to that because I don't have one. But I said, I'm assuming they basically just kind of took the F1 Ultra, did some modifications, increased the size of the chassis, basically just scaled it up a little bit and redid the sources. I would, if I were building it, that's probably what I would do, because you already have a tested and tried setup. You've already worked the bugs out for the most part. And so,
well, and
I guess that's probably what they did. They just scaled up the F1.
So I haven't watched all the videos out there, but if people are really interested in finding out more, I would recommend watching Justin Bittner's video. I feel like, and now most of them right now, they're being held back. They can't really do real testing. They're giving, you know, this is how it goes with some of these launches. They want you to tease the stuff for their deposit thing. I feel like Justin gave the most extra information beyond the marketing and talking points. And he did talk about some things like the shroud that slides down. It is more robust than the F1 Ultra. It actually slides down around the whole base. There are some tweaks there. I was like, going, okay, that's kind of cool. They did listen to some of the people's complaints.
The fan pops out.
The fan, yeah, it has different ways to actually get it out and clean it out. So there are some interesting things, but I would definitely Bittner built, right? That's his channel.
Yeah, Bittner built. I'll try to find a link to it. But he did a really good video on it. So
yeah, he did a pretty good video on that as much as he could do within the confines of what I'm sure their agreement says. So
oh yeah, and you know, they're, like I said, me and you've dealt with them before. There's at certain phases of release, they're going to want you to only release certain information in the beginning, and then when they do their big launch reveal or whatever, then they'll give you the green light.
Yeah.
But here is, I'll drop a link in here. This is to Bittner's video, and we met him. Me and Steve met him in Las Vegas at CES. Good guy, good channel. He does a lot of the same stuff that we do. So if y'all go check that out, if you haven't already, y'all may already watch him. But if you hadn't, like I said, he did do a really good overview of the machine. The color stuff that he did, like I said, Mopas will do color. the problem that I've always had, and they may have, like you said, they may have come up with some kind of special setting that fixed it. The problem I've always had is not getting color; it's controlling what color I get. That's the problem. I'll, try to get blue and wind up getting purple. Try to get red, end up getting blue.
Well, and yeah, we've talked a lot about that. Even after I've thought I've dialed it in, then you do a bigger section of it, and it heats it up more, and you get a changed color. So
yeah, the text, like the text, just from like a L to a O, you get a different effect because the heat's spread out over a bigger area.
Jim's asking, have you heard anything about Lightburn upgrade will come out? And I assume you're talking about 2.0. The only thing I've heard is that it'll be around LBX, which is coming up in 12.
July?
Like a week. I think we're going to see it in the next week or two, unless something major has come up. But I'm pretty sure they wanted to have that out right around, maybe even before it. So that's my best educated guess. And I know I think the release candidates out there for beta testing, if you want to try it out, you got to go to their forums, sign up, you can download it. I haven't had time to do that or look at Mill Mage myself. So probably won't get a look at it until it launches. But if you want to take a look at it, you can go to their forums and take a peek.
Michelle's asking, what do you think about the We Create Make It software update? I find with the 3.0, I use Lightburn or Corel Draw less for image editing. I haven't done a whole lot of images in the new Make It software. They've been turning out some updates since they've released the Pro. And now since they've come out with the Lumos, they've been cranking out some version updates. But I've been doing other stuff. And to be honest with you, I just haven't got into images with their software. Like Steve said, in the past, I've used it and it done pretty good with images. Xtool has got to where they're basically just drag and drop with images. I don't know what they're doing, but they have got it pretty streamlined, and I feel like there's a really good chance that the Make It software is probably going to get their hands on, some of those settings or algorithms or whatever that they're using as well, because the software they're like remarkably similar, as if maybe there was there's some exchanging of information somehow. But I haven't tried images. Have you tried anything? It wasn't.
I did a couple with the Lumos. I need to jump back into that. So I think I was just sent a latest beta version that maybe addressed some of my concerns with the Lumos. I haven't been able to do that because this weekend, I think I got that Friday, and I've been working with that small CNC kind of all weekend. So, but I think it's better, but yeah, like XCS does it really well. I don't remember, because I know I did a couple of images with the Lumos, and I think I just maybe did some minor tweaking, and they were okay, and I just kind of rolled with it. But to do some real honest testing on how it comes out, well, that it'll be maybe something to try out their software versus Lightburn on the same laser and see,
Yeah, well, I still plan on doing a video with the little slide base, and I had thought about, since that slide base lets you do wider things, doing another one of my tags, my license plates that I do on the anodized license plates, and that would be a pretty good little test for their software, because that's like the one that I made on the Ultra. If you remember, I made a couple of them on the Ultra and on the S1. And I actually have those around to kind of look at. So, matter of fact, I think I still got my test one that I did over there. So yeah, I would imagine that it would do pretty decent from what I've seen of the way the machine works. Now, is it going to be the fastest, especially on an image with high LPI? Probably not. I still wish they would unlock bidirectional on that thing, but whatever. I mean, have to agree to disagree with them, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a hill they might die on.
Yeah, well,
because for all their lasers, they should be able to at least enable it with maybe a warning of this may cause some instability or something. But
Yeah,
They just need
that's
to
my
lock it
thing
out.
is add a setting in there that says, enable bidirectional engraving. And you can throw a little box up that pops up and says, hey, just so you know, this may result in degradation to the quality of your image. If you wish to proceed, click OK. I mean, I'm good with that.
I mean, it shouldn't, because no other laser seems to have problems with that unless they're pushing it too fast. But
Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe one day.
Vac, yeah, I don't. I mean, I know some of the ones that I've seen there. I know they do their own business stuff on the side, but maybe X Tool's been feeling the pressure. I know both with my rep as well as I think Jason and others, we've kind of mentioned to them that the hobby users feeling a little left behind. So maybe they are making an effort to reach out to that. But yeah, it's kind of going back to what Clack says. I mean, that's a pretty expensive hobby machine for the limited application. If MOPA laser is really because you're looking for a fiber laser that has that extra control to try to work with those colors. So, because you can get cheaper fiber lasers in the same wattage without the MOPA control.
Yeah. Well, to me, there are other benefits with the MOPA because you can change a little more variables. So you can get not necessarily like the colors, like what they advertise, the purples, reds, blues, and stuff like that, but being able to get, like on aluminum, being able to get white versus gray versus black on aluminum. That's to me because that I can do a lot more consistent on those type metals than I can trying to get the red, purple, and annealing colors.
Sure,
like
but I still feel like that's for a hobbyist.
Yes, for a hobby, yeah, that's a very expensive machine for a hobby.
Yeah, I just
The
feel like
versatility of this fiber. If I want to do knives, coins, metal things, even some plastics that you may or may not need to be doing, you can do it with this machine. But pretty much, like this week, I've made several $100s this weekend in my shop, doing laser projects, and yeah, so far none of them were done on a MOPA. You know what I mean? So the majority of my jobs are going to be with wood, and they're going to be like these signs I got over here. I don't know if y'all can see them or not, but there's over there on the CNC. The bed of the CNC is covered up with like 5 signs that I did this weekend. And of course the tumblers are gone. Those got picked up already. But I did those 10 tumblers this weekend. Did those with the little We Create machine. So, unless you're trying to get really big productivity, I just, not many hobbyists or side hustle people are going to want to jump at that price unless unless you've already got, like, let's say you've already got the F1 Ultra and you just can't keep up. Like, you can't crank them out fast enough. Then I can see it for sure.
Speaking of your signs there, I don't know if you caught that part of the show last night with Ryan on Ryan's channel, but we need to see a sign that says the who's it's, what's it's.
Yeah, I saw that. I was listening. I was doing something. I think I was editing a video, but yeah.
But Radu's mentioning the videos for the F2 show it cutting thick material, but the edges are at quite an angle, not worth it for me. And that's just a nature of the Galvo. So your lasers in the center and the mirrors are moving that beam around. So it's always the source of the laser is always coming from the center. And the further out in your work area you get that you got to sling that beam, the wider that angle is going to be. There's no getting around that with a Galvo because it's not physically moving the beam over the top of the area you want to cut. So yeah, that's just one of the reasons that even on thinner material, you can notice it on 1/8-inch material. So maybe your object or work, it doesn't matter. But if you're trying to do, interlocking parts, they're never going to be lined up right unless you can somehow figure out that angle and flip one over and get it just right.
Too much math.
It's not going to work well for you. So yeah, cutting. I'm with you on there that, I wouldn't be pushing too hard on the cutting ability of this machine. That's you can, but they're far better machines to do that if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, if you want a machine to cut, I mean, like I said, first of all, what are you going to, other than maybe like a Christmas tree ornament or something like that, you're not going to be doing a whole lot of cutting with a machine with a work area that small. But if I were worried about cutting before I spent that kind of money, I'd just go get myself a A2448 or A48, the little small atom stack with the 40-watt module on it, and you can cut all day long and have a 40-watt with air assist and all the bells and whistles. So I don't know if I were X2, I don't know if I would lean really heavy into how thick it can cut, because
Well,
just like with this We Create machine, yes, it will cut at an angle, and the further out you get, the worse the angle is, and it also will start a fire because it has no air assist.
so and that's the thing. If I was looking at this laser, if I was looking to buy it, I would really have a hard time jumping into the dual one. I would be looking at it as the 60-watt MOPA, because the add-on for that 40-watt is something like $1,200 or something like that.
Oh yeah,
It,
yeah,
it, it jumps from like 4,300 up to like 55, 56, and I'm like, that's
yeah,
a huge jump for a blue diode that, you know.
yeah. The straight Mopo might actually, if you were going to pull the trigger on one of those, would probably be the better purchase.
I feel it, and maybe I'm just not thinking about what the case use for it, but yeah.
Yeah, like I said, the doing like what you could do tumblers with the Mopa. I don't like doing tumblers with a fiber. I know people that do it, but the problem with to me doing tumblers with a fiber is it is so much easier to accidentally mark the stainless steel with a fiber than it is the blue diode. Now, perfect world, I wish I had a Galvo CO2 to do tumblers on. In a perfect world, that would be like the ultimate tumbler machine, because I could knock them out quick, wouldn't have to worry about marking or digging into the stainless steel or whatever. But I've tried doing tumblers on fibers, and if you're doing, say, a yellow tumbler and you want black text, or an orange tumbler and you want black text, that can be done with a fiber relatively easy. But if you want the shiny silver, it looks like the metal hasn't been touched, it's either going to be a blue diode or CO2 is what you need to go with. Or maybe the UV, but the UV would just be so slow on a tumbler that I don't want to do it, because there's so many machines that would be faster on a tumbler. So,
Yep.
JR is asking, what font do you use on those name signs? That particular one, I'm gonna have to look. I have a few. Typically, what ends up happening is people just go on they go on my website or my Facebook page and be like, hey, they'll screenshot it or download the picture and be like, hey, how much would you charge to make me one that looks like this, that says this? And I'll tell them, and then I make it. So let me see which one. See, that was James Pierce. That font is called Billion Dreams. B as in like million, but billion. Dreams is the name of it.
Cool.
So, yeah. Like I said, sometimes people send me a job and be like, "Hey, can you use this font?" And I'm like, "Sure, I can." So I have to go drop like $4 or $5 on a font pack. So I've got tons of fonts. Like I've gotten now to where I just tell them, "Hey, just if you know the name of the font, send me the name of the font that you want. And if I don't got it, I'll get it." Because Adobe enables me to get most all of them because I have that premium Adobe membership. So if Adobe has a font that's comparable to it, I can get it. It don't cost me nothing. But sometimes I still have to buy font packs.
Mm-hmm.
But they're cheap.
Usually, yep. Keen Spotlight is mentioning my wife and I have secured our first event laser engraving on site. We are going to be at the Babe Ruth World Series being hosted in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Anything that we should keep in mind?
Is that like a baseball, softball type tournament thing?
I don't know.
Babe Ruth World Series. Yeah, I think that's going to be like for little league teams or whatever. Oh, that would be, man, if you have an F1 or F1 Ultra or a UV, or if you got something that marks on leather and you've got the settings figured out, you could make a killing at that. Yeah, I think that's going to be like a little league thing.
Yeah, so it's like a 13 to 16-year-old league.
Oh yeah, I'd go invest in a couple of gloves and mark those babies up with some text or names or whatever just for demo. Come up with some settings. Now you got to be confident because I'm going to tell you it's a little unnerving when somebody hands you something and says, "Hey, put my name on this," and you're doing it right there. It's unnerving because you're like, if I mess this up, I mean, it's everybody's going to know. But yeah, you could definitely make some money at that. If it's youth baseball, if you know, like let's say it's youth baseball and you know exactly which ball like is common in that, go buy a couple of buckets of those balls and customize the ball that you own and sell it to them. That way, if you mess one up, it's on you. You just throw it to the back and start over. I hate it when people bring me things that are expensive, want me to engrave them because now if I mess it up, first of all, I don't have one to test with, and secondly, if I mess it up, now I got to buy it. This past week, I forgot about that. This past week, I did 2 fishing reels that were going to be prizes in a fishing tournament, or were prizes in a fishing tournament, and I had a choice between the MOPA or the Omni, and it was like some kind of unknown weird material that I think might have been aluminum, but it could have been carbon fiber for all I know. And I'm like, okay, not going to go fiber with this one. So I went with the Omni. And of course, my settings were a complete total miss. Like I barely marked it, but it marked it just enough to where I couldn't like move it. You know what I mean? Like it's marked enough that you can see it, but it ain't where I wanted it. So I wound up having to sit here and run it for like 6 more passes until I got it deep enough that I could paint fill it. And it wound up, it turned out awesome, but my blood pressure got up because it was $200 fishing reels. But I wound up getting it to where it worked out. But man, I tell people all the time, if you ain't willing to buy it, do not put it in a laser. And I didn't really want to do it, but it worked out. Let me find that picture. I'll show you guys. That was because Klein was like, Eddie, what happened to not remarking it if you don't want to buy it? And I'm like, shut up. Shut up. Because I was on the phone with him and I was like, I think I just messed these up.
But yeah, hopefully, I mean, since it is a themed event, would definitely your thing rotated that way.
Yeah.
I would try to prep some blanks of some stuff that maybe you'd want to personalize. Maybe have some, you can pick up some of those mini bats. Clack did a good video of making like a home plate kind of thing. You could show a couple of those and maybe have them ready to customize. I would be definitely leaning into the event theme. But other than that, I mean, I don't know how many events you've done. It's all about selling yourself, being approachable, drawing people in. So if you can have that laser running, use that to bring them in, and then don't be afraid to kind of show off your work, talk about what you can do for them. So,
yeah, this is actually one of the ones that I do. And like you can go buy a board, like an oak board, and set these things up. And you can cut these on a table saw, band saw, jigsaw, scroll saw, whatever. I mean, you don't have to have a CNC for this. Now, it is nice to have a round over bit to do the round over on the edges right here. But I did these with my router table. And all it is something the shape of a home plate. And then you bore a hole in here. I just use a little Craig countersink bit and some dowels. And you put the dowel on there and you can engrave whatever. And what this is it's a little ring holder. So you can put like a 6-inch piece of wood dowel there. And when they win those rings or whatever, they can just stack them on there. And you leave it like this until you personalize it. That way you can engrave it without that big dowel sticking up in the way. And like I said, these are easy to make. If you have a laser, little cheat for you. If you have a laser and you're terrible at drawing stuff like this up, create yourself a line file in the laser and take your piece of wood, put it in your laser and mark it with the laser and then use that as a go-by to set up your cuts and stuff, especially if you're doing it like say with a scroll saw or a band saw or something like that. It make it easier. But yeah, these are pretty handy. I think I may have actually done this one with the CNC though, looking at that hole. Because that's a very, very flat bottomed hole for me to have done it with a drill bit. So I think I did that one with CNC. But yeah, there you go. There's an idea. But you need to make one as like a demo to take with you, like Steve said, so that they know that's what it looks like when you're done with it. So.
So Ryan's down in, I believe, Florida. Said stopped at a flea market here at the beach, and several places had lasered record clocks. I was really surprised. Yeah,
people do them.
People do them out of either ignorance or just I don't care. But yeah, anytime dealing with vinyl, it doesn't take much to start wrecking your machine, and it doesn't take much to make you or other people sick, even if you have ventilation. So, do a little research into anything you stick in your laser. Try to make sure that it is not corrosive and toxic and whatnot. So,
yeah. Norbert's asking, says he's not a fiber guy, but what's the difference between a lower wattage laser versus a higher? Just the engraving light or deep on metal. Would the lower watt fiber have a better engraving dot? You want to take that one, or?
I mean, you have more experience with them, but because all mine have been 20 watts, so I can't speak to the dot size because I have no experience with anything bigger.
I'll start by saying if it's a galvo like this, dot size is going to be smaller than most materials that you're going to work with. So I haven't found one yet that, like, I mean, these things, instead of like, what is it, usually 254 lines per inch or whatever on a laser, you're talking 1200. I mean, these things are, the dot size on these guys is just insane when it's focused properly. But it's not so much how deep they can engrave, because there again with lasers, your depth a lot of times it's not got anything to do with the power as much as it has the focus, because it doesn't matter how much power you have at zero focus, as it digs deeper and comes out of focus, it's gonna, the power is going to deteriorate, and depending on the shape of that beam, the sharper that beam point is, the more I guess forgiving the focus will be. Like with these machines, you can change the lens out and get a bigger work area out of the machine, but when you do so, a lot of times what ends up happening is the focus becomes ultra sensitive, where it's already sensitive, but now it's ultra sensitive, so that if you have the slightest little movement in the material, it's going to change the way it works, and that's because of the way that the beam's actually shaped. But I would say the biggest difference is the speed at which you can obtain a look. Like with, say, this coin right here. I'll take this guy. All right, this is actually in the material. Like I dug this in there pretty deep, like 3 millimeters, I think, 2 millimeters. You can do this with a 20 watt, and you can do this with a 60 watt or 100 watt. The big difference is going to be how long it takes you to do it, because a 20 watt, it's going to be like an all night job. A 60 watt, you're looking at an hour or so. 100 watt, 15 minutes and you're done. Not, those aren't exact numbers. Those are just, I'm just saying, the biggest difference you're going to notice is not the top materials or anything like that. It's how fast it can do it. It's like that one. I mean, that's a deep dig. I did that with a 60 watt, and it took, I think it was an hour for each side of this coin. That would have took like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, I was just say that'd be like 4 hours on a 20.
Yeah. So it's that's the biggest thing. You can do the same stuff. Like you can get from point A to point B with a 20 or a 60. You just ain't gonna get there as fast. Think of the wattage as kind of like, how fast it's capable of moving, opposed to how much weight it can carry, because it can, you can do the same thing. You just got to go slower. It's kind of like with your blue laser, a 20 versus a 60. You can cut 1/4 inch material with either machine. You just got to go a lot slower because you have less energy in that point as it moves through the material. So the more energy you have, the faster you can move and have the same end result. So.
So Jeffrey Lapierre is asking, do y'all see yourselves as hobbyists?
It depends on whether I'm working on a job for myself or somebody else.
Well, no, because both of us do have customers that we create things for. But when we're talking about metal engraving, that is definitely not something I do a lot of or seek out right now. So I would say, as far as what I do with fiber lasers, is probably more playing around and figuring it out, possibly looking at it as more of a hobby than a business right now. Whereas a lot of the other machines I actually put to work and, make things for people, and then it makes it easier for me to justify those. Whereas, the MOPA or whatnot makes it a little bit harder, because I'm like, I don't know what I would do with this right now to earn the money back, because until you work with it a bit and kind of have a good feel for the flow and what is possible, it's really hard to go out there and tell someone, yeah, I could do that and it'll cost this much. I see that online all the time. A person goes, I got this order for so much and so much. How do I make my laser do it? Or what laser do I need to do it? I'm like, how are you taking an order when you don't know that you can even do something, or the time it'll take, or, the cost to do it? So
yeah,
that's, I guess my answer is no, but with an asterisk on some of these things, in the fact that I don't have a plan to make money with them per se, more of a vision that maybe I could come up with something.
Yeah, well, mine, like I said, mine's both. I mean, it started as a hobby, and it still is. Like this. This was a hobby piece. This, I did not have any expectations of making any money off of this. Reason being, and I'll go ahead and we'll just cross this bridge. All right, this took an hour for that side, an hour for that side. Okay, how many of you guys are gonna pay $200 for this? I mean, anybody? If you will, I'll put an envelope and ship it to you today. All right.
PayPal is
Yeah. So this is the way you got to look at it. It took me 2 hours to make this coin. All right. Nobody in here is going to pay $200 for this. But even with the lowest powered machine I had in the building yesterday, I did 10 tumblers in 2 hours and made $200. So that's where I separate hobby from business. When somebody says, hey, would you make me some of these coins right here? No, I'm not in the business of making these coins, because I do not have my workflow set up to where I can make this profitable. Now, if Steve says, dude, I'd like to have a coin with my logo on it, can you make it? And I'm like, man, I'd really like to try that. And I do it. To me, that's a hobby. I'm not doing this with the expectation of making money. It's a hobby at that point. But when somebody says, hey, I need 10 tumblers, can you do those? That's a business. Now, I did choose to use a 10-watt laser as opposed to a 40-watt. But the reason I did is because my business is unique, because I try to use real-world jobs that I take in with these machines that I'm telling you guys about to see what kind of results I get. So I don't just get the machine. Sometimes I do. I'm not if I don't have a job, but I try not to just get the machine, do some tests on it, and say, here it is. I try to use it with practical projects or real world jobs when I can. And that was what I did this weekend. So that's my thing. People's like, oh man, you can make these coins. Yeah, I can, but I can't make any money off of these. That's my big thing. Is typically speaking, I can sit in my shop in a day making stove covers and make $100 an hour, because I can easily make 2 stove covers in an hour. And so that's where to me, that's where you have to separate it. Is this something that you're trying to make money with, or is this something that you're doing for fun? That's what separates my business and hobby, because technically this is my hobby. Stuff like this, little coin like this right here, that's my hobby. But when somebody asks me, can you do this? Then it becomes a business. So I do both. I still enjoy my hobby, because that's what fuels my passion, is the hobby part of it. But the business part pays the bills, because the software that I'm using right now costs me money. The software that I edit videos with costs me money. Lightburn costs me money. The power bill costs me money. And so I do the jobs, and fixing to be health insurance is going to cost me money. So the shop, the business, I do make money off of it. So once you get to where, in my opinion, once you get to where it's an issue with your taxes, you've crossed over into it's a business, even if it's just a side hustle. If it's something that you're having to, keep books on, you've crossed over to the point to where it's a small business now. And so that's where different people, like I said, with different machines, different people will look at that machine and go, yes, I think that's a good investment. And other people are just going to be like, hey, that's a cool toy, I'm going to get it, And I have to look at it kind of both ways, because some of this stuff is, like Steve said, it's not really something I'm using as a hobby per se. I actually do use them as a business. So
yeah. Well,
Greg says 10K is the line, and I don't know, because
now is that after taxes and
is that
expenses,
gross?
or
Is that gross or net?
yeah,
Or is that how much taxes you have to pay at the end of the year?
but yeah, no, I mean, I try to approach everything that I put out on the channel as, a side business, kind of a hobby business, as you would say, and to keep it relational that way. I try not to get too crazy with some of the stuff. I mean, obviously things like the UV printer and the UV laser are pushing that boundary, but for some people they're not. I mean, it's been interesting interacting with people that are looking at the UV Make E1. A lot of them are looking at it from a business, and they have to look at it as, is it fast enough for them? Whereas this is really geared at, the consumer small business, where, that it's not the primary focus. It's something they're going to do on occasion. And this is where that fits into my realm pretty well, is the fact that I have a lot of people that I work with that are asking, like, hey, can we do this, that? And it has opened up some areas there that I hope is going to be profitable. Now, long term, the question is going to be, machine maintenance, ink supplies, all that stuff. Is that going to eat into it to where, I need to do more than the occasional order and such? But yeah, it's an interesting question to look at it as, what point is it beyond hobby into business realm, and how do they blend? And that's, that's something I'm dealing with day in, day out, because I'm not 87 days away from retirement. I'm going to be working my job for at least another decade, probably. So I'll be doing that balance along with a lot of other people.
Yeah. Well, like I said, and who was it? Dale, those stove covers I'm talking about, I got several videos on them, but it is a very niche, unique piece of equipment, but it was one that I was asked to bid, and I make on average, I think they account for about 12 grand a year. Stove covers do, and have for about 3 years in my business. So I don't knock them. Like
go find some firewood, throw it on your stove, and that's what you got.
So it's a business to business customer that I have, and I make several of them a month for them. I went yesterday and bought $500 worth of lumber, and I've got enough lumber to make 12 of them. So I take that $500. Actually, I bought some shorts too. My wife reminded me I did buy about $100 worth of shorts. So I bought $400 worth of wood, and I'll turn that into $1,200 worth of stove covers. So that's one of the things that I do to support my business. And my thing is this, guys, and I know y'all hear it a lot. YouTube is a thing for me. I do make money off of YouTube, but it is not the majority of my income for my business. It's enough that I enjoy it. It makes it worthwhile to pay for the softwares and stuff. But if it went away today, I could still stay retired, pay my health care, and pay my light bill off of my physical product sales and stuff that I do. And that's what I've been trying to do, is build that business up to where when I retire, even if YouTube shut down tomorrow, I could still stay retired, not have to go back to work, and pay my bills. So that's where I'm a little different than a lot of these guys that are full-time content creators. Yes, I create content, and I will be doing it my business full time, but the content creation is like 1/3 of my pie. Like if you took my business and sliced it, like the content's actually only about 1/3 of it. So,
well, I'm still going to call you a full-time YouTuber.
But I mean, technically, I guess I am, because I do. Like the other day, one of the ladies that ordered one of these signs over here is tickled to death that the sign that I made for her kid's nursery or whatever it was, is in a video. Like she shared it with all of her friends. She's like, here's a video of how he makes it. So I mean, it's pretty cool. But yeah, mine's multifaceted. I like to call it diversifying your business. That way, it's not just one thing. You know what I mean? If one thing goes away, yes, it's going to hurt, but I could lean the other way and, you know what I mean, sustain myself. So
yeah,
that's the thing.
Captain's asking, could a Ortur YRC rotary be wired to be used on Monport Reno? Technically, yes. I think it's a similar size, similar style stepper motor to what is natively on the Reno. And I may be able to answer this better in a little bit. I gave my Ortur YRC rotary to a friend, and he's actually looking to use it in conjunction with a CNC machine, which just basically means we got to make an adapter for it, do some testing on the steps to kind of dial in the rotation settings and such. The Reno, I think, has like a 4-pin aviation plug on the inside of it for the rotary, so you'd have to make an adapter from the flat cable to that. Make sure you get the right pin out, of course. But then it should work. I mean, most of them are just a 4-wire stepper motor control. And so getting the wiring right and then getting the settings down for adjusting your steps and rotation and such is all it takes. You do need to be careful, and you get into some of the larger lasers that their drivers for the steppers might be different, and could be a different voltage, amperage draw could be different. But on most of these smaller lasers, they're using pretty much NEMA 17 style steppers that are pretty consistent. So, yes, but good to double check the board and the steppers and such to be sure.
Yeah, because you never know. They might slide one in there on you or something.
Yeah, but that would be a good one for the Reno. The YRC is smaller, kind of a compact rotary, chuck style rotary. And any of those benchtop units, they don't have a lot of space for a chuck rotary.
Yeah. Hobo says, technically, once you're getting paid, you're doing it professionally. Getting paid doesn't mean you're making money. I've gone broke getting paid many times. Yeah, I mean, there's different varying, levels of it. But like I said, it's just, even before, because I never really, I was planning on selling woodworking stuff. I was never planning on just being just laser stuff. But when I got the laser to customize the woodworking stuff, it just kind of pulled me over there, because there was so many people around me doing woodworking, but very few of them were doing woodworking to where they could put custom stuff on it. And the ones that were doing it with a CNC, and it wasn't the same look. And so it just, and then over time, like the glow forges of the world, those letters over there was a girl in town that was doing those, but she was doing them on a glow forge, and she could only do them 24 inches. And then people started calling me going, hey, what's the biggest you can do them? And I'm like, 32-ish, depending on how the letters are. Sometimes I can orient it and get it stretched a little bit. And I'm selling 4 or 5 of those name signs a week now. So those things are going crazy right now. I don't know whether I got put on some kind of Facebook page for home decor or what, but they are blowing me up. Nurseries, I got 2 of them over there for nurseries.
Word of mouth is some of the best advertising.
Oh yeah,
both positive and negative.
Yeah. So
hey, Chris says professional does not equal profit. Paying for it doesn't mean you're guaranteed you're hiring a professional either. So
no, you never know. You never know. Travis says he's going to be making catch-all trays for a local realtor. We'll be cutting them with a Reno, maybe a Prover if I can get it working, and customized for the buyer. Brand new gig. Hey, that's how it starts. I mean, that's the way to do it. It doesn't matter if you can fix it to where it's profitable, even if it's not. Maybe you're not making killer profit, but it's enough to make it worth your time, and you're making some money off of it. Because that's how this started with this company. They reached out to me and they're like, hey, we've seen this thing that you made for this couple on Facebook. It's called a stove cover. We would like for you to make them for us. I had made that because somebody called me and was like, hey, my mom wants one of these. Can you make it? And they sent me a picture from Etsy. That's where I got the idea. I made it for a customer. And I'm like, yeah, I can make that. It's just, this, that, and the other. Well, then 3 years later, I'm still making them for this company, and it's been one of those things to where, like I said, I know that even if I don't make another video, I can still keep my shop going just off of those things.
Does that kind of fall into the whole planned obsolescence kind of thing? You know, where appliance manufacturers have made their stuff wear out fast. If a home builder gives you a fire hazard and your house burns down, now they got to buy
I mean,
another
maybe
home.
they're in cahoots with the insurance people. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I wouldn't think the insurance people want you to pay. They never pay out. They don't want to pay out. I don't
But
think they're in
yeah, I
cahoots
mean,
with them.
hey, start with what you can start with. Like I said, I started out a little cheaper with my stove covers, but then the demand got to the point to where the way that I was doing them using wood off of my sawmill, I just couldn't keep up because I couldn't cut the wood, dry the wood. I mean, I was like, man, I'm doing way too much work for this. I mean, the price does not match the effort.
Yeah.
And so I had to reinvent how I was doing them. And it turns out they actually liked them better that way. So I'm like, okay, great. It's cheaper for me to manufacture and quicker, and they like them better. So yeah, it's just find something and get your name out there, because they're going to tell people, and people that get those are going to know where it came from. The one thing that I will tell you is that put your like laser engrave, stamp, brand, whatever you got to do, put a logo or some way that the person can find you on the bottom side underneath it or something like that, as long as you do good work, because then people will pick it up and go, hey, let me call this guy and give me one of these. So, but yeah, it's wild how it works out, and it'll slowly build. It took about 4 years, because I started doing my Facebook page about 4 years ago, and then YouTube came along about a year later. So it's been about 4 years since I started actually doing the stuff on Facebook, and it's gotten to the point now to where like it's every week I'm out here doing jobs, like usually 2 or 3. And hopefully it's going to get better after I retire when I have more time, because one thing that I did here recently is Clack Shack had a bit of a price hike because it got to where I couldn't keep up. And so I raised the prices. But unknowing to me, it did not affect the rate at which jobs were coming in. They're still coming in just as fast. So it's like, okay, well, never mind. So I'm just rolling with it for right now, because I can't raise my prices anymore. Well, I say I can't. I don't want to. I've already elevated. I went from like $25 to $35 to now I'm at $45 to $50 on those little signs, and they're still ordering them.
Well, I mean, you're probably just keeping up with recent inflation at that point. People are just so used to price hikes.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is a good tactic. A lot of people hate to do it because they don't want to. You hate to drive away business, but if you are too busy and you can't add hours to your day or productivity to your shop, you raise your price to hopefully make the same with less work. So,
yeah, but like I said, it didn't really slow down the incoming work that much. So, no. But like I said, I still try to be reasonable for my area, and my area and your area and other people's areas are going to be different. Mm-hmm. Like the cost of a Coke or a drink or whatever you want to call it at a gas station is going to vary from Las Vegas, LA, Oklahoma to Alabama. It's going to be a different price. What it costs you in a store to buy something is going to vary a lot, and so does everything else. So,
Kevin's asking, looking for a desktop 40 watt or higher laser with a work area minimum of 13 by 20, either diode or CO2. Suggestions. I mean, if you're looking at either diode or CO2, I'd probably lean into the CO2, because that's one of the areas where you might regret not having the ability to, if you're wanting to do like acrylics and such, it's going to be a little more difficult on the diode, and sometimes impossible if it's the translucent or the clear. Also, if you're looking at engraving things like tumblers and such, the CO2 is going to be more consistent. Now, what you will lose is the diodes tend to have a little bit more of a sintering burn for the engraving. Sometimes you can get a little darker and a little more detailed. They have a finer focus size, but that kind of just depends a little bit on what you're looking at. There's a lot of desktop size CO2s in that range. They're going to be a little bit higher. I mean, 40 watts about the bottom of the CO2.
So the 13-inch by 20-inch is the 13 is going to be the problem.
Well, yeah, you're going to be looking at like the cheapest one in there. I think you're going to be looking at is the Reno 65 Pro, because of that 13-inch working area. A lot of them are like 12 by 20,
yeah,
or 12 by 16 in some cases,
or 11.8 by 20.
Now, looking at depending on budget, though, I mean, the other thing to consider is if you're going to be doing taller items. So if you want to be doing a lot of tumblers, the desktop CO2s aren't great at that, because a lot of them have like a limited working area, a little cutting out area, that you can remove the tray or the rails. That's where you might want to look at something that's slightly larger. So I've got the OhmTech Maker, or if you've got the budget, the JR mentioned the Thunderbolt would be a nice option, but then you're starting to get into, a little higher price range for that. They are still considered desktops, but they're a little more of a cabinet.
Yeah, and the work area is only a 20 by 12, so that 13. That's what I'm saying. That 13-inch work area is going to be an obstacle.
Yeah,
because the Thunderbolt's a 12 by 20.
So, I mean, in that case, even with diode, you're going to be looking at a wider one. So, the Atom Stack A40 or X40, whichever letter they're going with this month. That's kind of in a wider format beyond that typical 16-inch working area that you get on most of the 400 by 400s. That's kind of a nice laser that we both have. I mean, it's kind of your workhorse.
Which one? X40?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that thing's makes me a killing. Like for what that machine costs, I've done the stove covers and the boxes, and I made some more of my racks for my spray paint this week, and a couple of boxes for things. Yeah, the X40 is a big work area, and the 13 by 20 is no problem because it's more like a 16 by 32. Actually, I cut my material 17.5 by 35 is how big I cut the material for it. And I can just about like get edge to edge with it. That gives me just enough to where I don't have to worry about running off the material. But with the CO2, that 13-inch, that if you could do with the 12 by 20, you have plenty of options. But that 13 by 20 is that's gonna be an obstacle in the CO2 range unless you get into a cabinet style. Even I think the Bolt Pro, I think it's a little bit bigger. $32 by 20 for the Bolt Pro, but now you're up in the $9,000 range now.
Yeah, the like I say, the Reno Pro 65 is 24 by 16.
That would do it.
So that's probably like the bottom, the cheapest CO2 in the true desktop style, but getting the height out of it is going to be. You can remove the honeycomb, and there is some space underneath. I think you can even take out the tray and get even deeper. But yeah, there's some variables there that going to a little bit depend on what you're looking at doing.
Yeah. Greg, now he's got 5 years, I think, before he can retire from the school system. So now he's gonna be working. He's asking if I'm going to put Klein on as a full-time employee, but no, I'm not going to have any employees. Employees, to me, are a black hole for money. That's really all. I mean, unless I get to the point where I can't handle it, and if that's the case, I'll just get Brandy to quit her job and stay home and help me before I hire anybody, because nobody's going to work as hard as I do. And as long as I keep my expenses down and my revenue up, there's a lot of people that I know made more money before they got employees than they do since they got employees. So I'll just throttle the business down to where I can handle it by myself, because I don't want anybody to be, depending on me making money out here in my retirement years to support their family. You know what I mean? Because if I don't want to work hard that week, I'm not going to work hard that week. So it's just gonna be me, unless one of my kids wants to get interested in it or something. Me and Brandy, anyway. In terms of YouTube user, that's a new screen name. Says in terms of MOPA, I'm looking at a 30 watt and a 60 watt. As a beginner with MOPA, is it safe to go low or should I opt for the higher wattage? I mean, higher wattage is going to get you more power, but it depends on your intended use. Again, like me and Steve said, are you looking to turn out things really, really fast and hundreds of them a day, or are you a hobbyist that's just wanting to be able to, move into different mediums like stainless steel, brass, and stuff like that? I mean, is this are you looking for high volume productivity, or are you just looking for something fun to play with? Because that's two totally different things. Because that's a big price gap between the 30 and the 60.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess, depending on where you're looking at, I mean, do you have a budget in mind and the 60 is pushing it, or is it just, do you spend the money or not? I mean, a lot of people say go with the bigger, buy once, cry once. A lot of people, they undersize the, whether it be the working area of their laser, their CNC, or the power of their spindle or the laser head or whatnot. They wish it's always more expensive to upgrade after the purchase because you're never going to get the full value of your laser back. You can't always just drop in, the difference in cost to get to that 60 if you think you'll need it later. So, but if it's, so I guess if money isn't an object, I would go with the higher power at the get-go and not have that regret later that you wished you had. But like Clack said, if budget is a big concern, it's not, the 30 is going to do pretty much anything the 60 can. It's just going to be slower. So it's kind of what to look at is, do you have more money or time?
Yeah. And like I said, one of my big things is like I was talking to one of my nephews is over here. We were talking about it, and I've got to the point where my shop, sometimes I have to have a shop clean up, and I look at a tool and I'm like, when's the last time I made money with that? And if the answer is I don't remember, then I probably need to get rid of it because it's gotten to the point to where every foot of space in here is needed. And so that's kind of the way I'm having to look at things now. And the same thing with the laser. I mean, do you really want to spend, an exorbitant amount of money on something that you may or may not be able to use to get your money back? It's a big, it's a big step. I like having the capability to engrave metal, but I'm gonna be honest with you, metal blanks are expensive. Practicing on metal is expensive. And so you have to understand when you get into the MOPA, like if you're trying to dial in settings for stainless steel, now you got to go get some stainless steel. And I can promise you, you cannot get a 4x8 sheet of stainless steel for $20 like you can plywood. So there is another thing that you've got to take, into consideration is when you get into that metal, like I said, you go buy knives or whatever, you test a knife. I mean, when you stick it under the laser, there's a really good chance that this thing is going to end up a box opener like that one. Like, it just, there's so many knives over here. I've got all these different knives because they end up as nothing more than just knives to open boxes with because
But can you do that to yours?
No, I can't do that because I don't have a Eufy because I'm not like a Eufy, friend apparently. See, like this one's been with me for a while. It's got the old logo on there. but yeah, it's blanks are more expensive when it comes to the metal engraving stuff, and that's something that you gotta get into. Like I said, and the versatility of what you can make with it. Wood is wood cutting and engraving machines is probably the most versatile as far as being able to do stuff and make money with starting out. Now, if you're let's say you run a pro shop at a golf course, or if you work at a firing range, or a FFL, or if you're a gunsmith, those are times that you could probably be better off with a fiber, but that's not everybody. So.
So the YouTube user followed up saying, looking to do more color with jewelry and other metals. Already own a D1 Pro and F1U. So, I mean, if you're looking at smaller items, you're probably going to be okay with the 30. But it's always the what if I get into some other stuff, I think. That's where that power will probably come into play. So, I don't know. It's one of those things that's kind of hard to give. I mean, we can kind of lay out some of the things to consider, but it's hard to kind of just answer for someone. Like, obviously this is better for you.
Yeah.
Because only you can kind of answer that, but hopefully we gave you some things to consider with it. But
oh yeah. Jerry said that he thinks the MOPA's unnecessarily crowding my shop. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've got 2 of them right now in the shop. I've got my friend up at the y'all know I got a friend that does laser engraving here in town, and he does a lot of trophies and stuff. And so, me and him have been talking about these little tags that he does on the black over silver metal for like trophies and stuff. I'm like, dude, he's doing them on CO2. I'm like, if you had a fiber, like you could just like push the button, and as soon as you push the button, it's done, because that stuff is nothing to engrave. So if nothing happens to this one, because I've had the Monport longer, but if nothing happens to this one, it may one day end up, somewhere else. But right now, I like having the 2 because I've got different configurations on the 2 machines. And sometimes, even though I've got the 60, I'll use the 30 on a job because I've got better data as far as settings on the one that I've had longer. So a lot of times, especially if it's something where it's a one-off and I don't have a tester, I'll use the old Monport 30 watt because I'm like, okay, I've already got tried and true settings for that material on it that I don't have on the 60. So, but I'm gonna tell you the Omni has become my go-to for those unknown materials, because you can just nudge it until you get just enough to do the job, and then you can quit. Mm-hmm. So as long as nobody touches it, you can't touch it.
Yep.
Don't touch nothing. Bolt it to the bed and nobody bumps it. But yeah. Aldrich brought up a good point that after you get through practicing or making mistakes, you can burn your wood. You can't burn metal, which is true.
Yeah, except for I've got buckets of wood right now because I've been going through tests with machines. I've been getting offcuts. I've been milling down some of this rough sawn lumber I've had sitting around, and it's been too hot to burn it. I'm not sitting out there watching a fire.
Well, luckily where I'm at, I usually burn something like every day. I didn't burn anything today, but
yeah,
it was just because it was unusually dry and it was a little windy today. It's not today.
Within city limits, they don't appreciate the burn barrel type fires. They want to do, a fire.
Maybe one day you can put you in an incinerator or a wood heater or something. I don't know.
I looked at that, but insurance and city code, I'd lose so much footage in my shop because of like setbacks, and it's not worth it.
Yeah. Radu says 30 by 30 by 24 cube enclosure with an angled top front like Zilla. 402 cubic feet per minute, 6-inch inline exhaust. How much air intake is needed? So no negative air pressure. You can have too much openings for intake. No, you want it to be a little suction. You want a little bit. Like, you don't want it to be just free flowing, because then the smoke can come out. You actually want you want just enough to where it's the fan's not being like strained, because it's hard to say. But I would say start with, like, if it's a 6-inch fan, maybe like 3-inch. If you're doing a round opening, maybe start with like a 3-inch opening, But your best bet is going to come up with some type, and you can use your laser to do it. Kind of like your grill has it where you can dial it. Like you could come up with that setup if you don't want to. Which what I did with mine when I first built it was I'd drill a hole, check it, drill a hole, check it, drill a hole, check it until I got it to where it had just the right amount. You don't want it sucking the lid shut, but you don't want it just being able to air to be able to freely move throughout it either. So, do you have a mathematical equation for that, Steve? Do you know the proper way to calculate that?
Well, I tend to go closer to 1-to-1, and then I'll close it off if needed, because I find more often than not I need to open up. So if you've got a 6-inch diameter inline exhaust, just do your math to figure out the surface area of that, and then create the equivalent inlets. That's what I did on my original enclosure, which had a 4-inch outlet, and then the slats on the front were all basically calculated to take up the same area. Now there's also additional leakage through seams, and then I had the cutouts for the side panels and everything. But that I also had a panel in there that I could shift around and such. But yeah, I start closer 1-to-1, but
Yeah, like I said, my cuts aren't always perfectly flush. So my doors and hinge points and stuff like that typically aren't going to be completely airtight. So I went with like 50%. Like if I got a 4-inch fan, I went with 2 inches, and then I just slowly increased from there. And if you have one of those, if you bow hunt and you have a duster that you can use to check wind direction, those work really well to be able to check the seams to make sure you have some negative pressure going in where it's pulling air in. Baby powder, any kind of smoke. Even if you've got a fine enough mist, like an aerosol, like a water spray or something like that, with a fine enough mist, you can see if it's pulling the mist into the intake or not. But you do not want to get it to where it has like zero pressure on the intake, because then you will definitely get some bleed back into the room with some odors and stuff like that. It's a balance. Now there's probably a scientific calculation, but like I said, any calculation is going to assume that everything else is airtight. And especially if you're like me, to where my bottom hinges out and all that, it's not airtight. It didn't have O-rings around it. And I mean, it's so I went with like 50% and then opened it up slowly until I got it to where I wanted it to be. And it's it's tight enough now to where when I open and close my lid, it switches from outside air to inside air. So it works really good. Yeah, Mark said tissue works. That'd be a good one. And what's the little strings? What's the little fibers? They have those little things that you can get for bow hunting. It's almost like cotton, and you pull it out.
I mean, as long as it's drawing a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Just standard copper paper. You don't want it to be trying to pull that through the vent, but you want it to kind of suck up to it. But yeah, I want to make sure I have as much airflow in as I have going out. So
yeah, you don't want to restrict it too much, but at the same time, like I said, I've actually opened them up too far before and had to go back and correct it. Because it's like, man, I'm smelling the machine. I wasn't smelling it before. So. But yeah, there's probably somebody that can give you a correct answer for that. But like I said, it's going to depend on the rest of your bill, because I'm assuming you got some cables and hoses and stuff that are coming in somewhere else, some power, USB cable. Are those sealed, or are those, because usually to get a plug through there, you're going to have like a 1.25 inch hole to be able to put a 120 plug through. So are you plugging that back up? Are you sealing that up with some HVAC tape, or what I mean? There's a lot of variables.
Dwayne, yeah, I agree. Need to go camping more. Just hasn't been the year for it yet, but I tend to do more of that in the late summer and fall. We wait till summer. So fall semester will start like the third week in August, and that's a good time for me to then start escaping a little bit after that, get out and enjoy some cooler weather. Not so many families are out doing as much stuff, but things are still open a bit. So yeah, I'll use some of it that way. But I kind of went to town processing a lot of my piled up rough cut lumber the past month, and I've got 3 5-gallon pails with a bunch of random offcuts, and that's like the stuff that really isn't. I mean, I've also have the smaller offcuts for the CNC and other stuff, but unless I'm going to be like hogging those down into like pen blanks and such, of which I have plenty of other wood for if I need to do that. So this just, yeah, it needs to end up on a campfire. But
Radu said, "How do you tell if it's got negative pressure strain on fan or motor? If it's straining it to where you can hear it, you got nowhere near enough opening. Like if you can actually hear it in the fan, you definitely got problems. If you can't open the lid because of it, you got problems. It, like Steve said, if it's got enough suction to, let's say, like if you put a Post-it note up to the side of the machine, like not the sticky part, but if you put a piece of paper up to the machine and it holds it there when it's pulling the air in, then that should be adequate. Like I said, smoke, just you want the smoke being pulled out of the machine, and you'll know that you don't have enough if the smoke's just kind of sitting in there churning around in the area and not going anywhere. Because if you don't have enough air coming in, the air's not going to go out. It's just going to sit there and just churn, and your enclosure is going to look like it's on fire. In a perfect world, you want the inside of the enclosure to be clear and like not a lot of smoke. But let me see here. So, like for instance, let me grab one of my little test pieces of material. I just broke down a whole bunch of materials, so I got plenty. All right. So with this enclosure, as you can see, like with the enclosure Zilla, this bottom part right here, this actually opens. So like this thing is not necessarily airtight. I do have a little bit of rubber foam here and a little bit of rubber foam here, just to make it where it don't slap closed quite as hard. But yeah, so this machine, when I close the lid, you'll notice that the little louvers right there will start opening and closing. That's because when I close this door right now, the fan's pulling air from the room into the machine and out the bottom on that hose that you see on the other corner over there. But watch what happens when I shut this door. Those little louvers you see on the back, that is actually a vent pipe that goes outside. So when I'm running this machine, when I have the door closed, whether it's winter or summer, I'm not pumping my climate controlled air out of the shop and into the yard. It's pumping it into the shop through the enclosure and then back outside. So let me get a light burn pulled up here, and let me file new 16. So as you can see, there's my machine. Let me move that to my park location so it's out of the way of the camera. It just bugs me. It's my OCD. I can't help it. Once I get that up there out of the way. All right. So if I take, and I'm going to run this as an engrave, we'll do 300 at 100% power. Air assist. 150 is plenty. Okay. So now we'll start this engrave right here, and I want to show you guys as far as the enclosure. You'll notice that it's going to get a little smoke in there, but it's not going to like cloud up. So we'll let that run for a minute. I'll just show you. But there we go. Just let it run for a minute, Steve. You can come back and check these questions or whatever. But if I open this door, watch that louver in the back there. Because now it's pulling air from inside the building. All right. Now it's pulling air from outside. So that's how I know that mine is sealed. And that's why I can sit here and run that machine all day long and I don't smell smoke in here. Now, if you open the enclosure, you can smell smoke. But yeah, there you go. Let's check back on that in just a minute. But that is, I forgot I can do this other share thing.
No, you're good.
But I can't.
I refilled my drink.
Yeah. But as you can see there, matter of fact, I can bring you up another camera over here. Here we go. There we are. That camera lens needs cleaning. But that's my secondary camera. I got two cameras in my enclosures. I got one that I can use to record on, and I got one that works with light burn.
So the other thing to consider is the placement of your inlets versus your outlet. So you want to put them in a way that naturally moves the air across the area that you're trying to capture from. So if you have your inlets on the bottom and your exhaust on the bottom, but you have all your lasering up top, it's more likely that some of that smoke's going to kind of sit there and circulate at the top. Whereas if you have the ability to maybe draw from the top and then pull out for the bottom, then it's going to more channel that air flow and grab that smoke as well. So it's both the size of the opening, but also kind of where you're directing it to come through and out your enclosure.
Yeah, just like with this machine, as long as I like most of the time, whatever I'm engraving, I'm going to have the actual engraved area in the middle of the work area. Pretty much, it's right in front of my air inlet, so the air that's being pulled through that module is fairly clean because it's coming directly in from the outside right there.
Cody, I've got the opposite problem half the year.
Yeah, it gets hot in there during the day, but it's not. It doesn't get that hot because the air is still moving. It is in like the intake outside is kind of in the shade, so it's not like I'm pulling it through a black block wall or anything like that. I haven't had any problems. The way that I've got the inlet is it kind of comes over and like it doesn't pull water in because there's not really a suction right there. It's the fan's what's generating that little bit of suction. So it doesn't pull water in there. The only problem I had when I first did it was I did have a bird build a nest in it. So I had to put a wire mesh over the end of the inlet so that the bird didn't build a nest in it.
So I think Cody's worried about the 105 to 110 degree air that he has this time of year getting sucked in through there. So
yeah, it's like I said, but you got to look at it this way though too. The machine is set up to be air cooled, and I mean it's getting a constant flow of air, so it's not like it's just sitting in there churning in its same air. The air's getting exchanged at about 300 cubic feet per minute.
Right, but you got to have, if you got hot air blowing on there, that's not doing as good of cooling as 50 degree cooler air.
Yeah, better than laser than me though in that situation. I haven't had a problem with it. You can run it with it pulling the air, because if it pulls the air from inside this shop, it won't be but about an hour. It'll be the same temperature in here as it is outside.
I mean, you guys are warm down there, but Phoenix is something else.
Phoenix is hot.
In the summer. Yeah.
If I lived out there where Cody's at, probably what I would do is I would have a bunch of filters. That way we didn't have to exchange my air conditioned air outside at all, ever.
Yeah.
Now in the wintertime it gets a little weird because it can get cold in there as opposed to the temperature in here. But so far I haven't had any condensation issues or anything like that. So.
Yeah, Mark was just asking, does humidity or cold cause issues when pulling air from outside through the enclosure? And it can. It's one of the concerns of, like, on a CO2 laser. It's the humidity and the dew point and the temperature of your tube, you can all of a sudden find yourself, it doesn't have to be too crazy cold or hot. You can all of a sudden find your machine sweating because of the dew point. And so that kind of the change of cold air, humid internal air, yeah, it can definitely cause some problems on various electronics as well as on your tube if you're running that and you shock it with some cold water or some hot water, with the chiller and such. So something to, I mean, the machines just like us prefer to be in a temperate area. So yeah, I would be definitely concerned about humidity and kind of the shock of changing temperatures.
Well, it's currently 81 in here, and
Right now, it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, expect a low of 71 degrees.
so it's actually hotter in here than it is outside right now.
Well, my weather station says it's finally fallen below. It's 78 out, and it's now 69 in the basement. So it's gotten cooler down here since I've started.
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's pros and cons. But like I said, with my situation so far, I haven't had an issue with any kind of condensation, too much heat, not enough heat. I mean, so far it's worked well with me. I've had this enclosure up and going now for a year and a half or so. And I had the Acer V35 in there until I got the Atom Stack X40 Max. And that's when I swapped it out. The V35 is still running at Klein Shop. I just took and swapped it out for this one. So it hasn't had any negative effects on the machines. Because you remember when I got this X40, I mean, it's been quite a while. I don't know exactly when it was. Let me see when I did the video on the X40.
Was it last spring, or is it almost coming up on 2 years now?
I don't know that it's been 2 years. I don't know. It may have been. Let me look and see when I got the machine. Because it's been in there for a while. December the 29th of 2023 is when I put it in that enclosure.
So it's coming up a year and a half.
Yeah. So I've been running that machine in that enclosure for a year and a half now. December the 29th will be 2 years that it has been in the enclosure.
I made an enclosure for mine, but you mocked it, so I had to tear it apart.
I just said it needed to be orange.
No, you called it an igloo cooler.
Oh, yeah, that one. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, we got Great Lakes Laser Supply stopping by. Good to see you again. Hope things are going well for you guys.
What's up? How are you, sir? I thought I saw, who else did I see in here a while ago? Well, I saw Hobo. We mentioned, I saw somebody else. I remember who it was. I was gonna.
Well, we didn't pick on Greg. He stopped in. I don't know if he's still here.
Yeah,
but...
Greg, I'm still waiting on that. I mean, I've been ready to RSVP. I done got my wife talked into going.
You got your tux ready too for the big event?
Nah, I can't wear no tux now. I'm hoping this flip flop Crocs appropriate. I'm hoping this ain't gonna be no black collar event.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking my wife into going with me. I was shocked.
Says getting closer.
Cool. I'm gonna take pictures and stuff. Figure out how I want mine done. So do it right.
Jerry's asking, did I 3D print the Saturn rocket on the shelf behind you? This one is actually the Lego Saturn rocket. But I'm probably going to restart it because this one isn't big enough. I did start 3D printing one though. So these are all the pieces. And I think this was started on maybe the Cheetah. But I might restart it and scale it up just a little bit more. But yeah, this is in some pieces. So, but yeah, no, that's like the one thing that Carla can buy me as gifts because, she can't buy me any workshop stuff. I've probably already acquired it, but it's NASA Legos. So she tends to grab a kit for me every so often for Christmas or something.
So there we go. And as you can see, the machine ain't all it ain't all like fogged up, but needs a little dusting. Some dust on that.
Might be sweater season before he has it. Well, get too close to that, I'll be in the area.
Woo, somebody needs to drain the air compressor.
Get a little shower.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that hose, I don't know why that hose does that, man, but that thing, I'm going to have to drain it tomorrow. Let me check my water separator. I'm surprised it didn't catch me. Oh, it did. It did catch a little. That's why I love those dual water separators. That one over there had about probably 3 or 4 teaspoons in it.
Great Lakes, yeah. I actually was sent one for part of the promotional stuff. So I've got a couple videos out on it, and it's sitting in the dark behind me right there. Actually have a project a friend has sent me some material on for something kind of cool. I don't know that I'll share details on it just yet, but he's working on a kind of a cool restoration project that he's asked me to help out with on some things. So that we're probably going to put it to use with that.
Turn off the air compressor.
Did you mean the shack?
Hey, Alexa, turn off the shack. Didn't work. Are you talking to us or your robot? Because we can't hear you.
Oh,
Okay.
hey, he's done went crazy over here. He's turning off stuff that I don't know what he's having a hard time. I'm just going to use my phone. My air compressor.
Now I want to just try random things like, hey Alexa, go into lockdown mode.
Somebody's Alexa just said something. No, I have a power strip on my air compressor, and I was going to turn it off so I could drain the water out of it tomorrow. So, but yeah, it's apparently forgot what the dang thing's called. It's one of those. I need to get me a different one. It's one of those. It's like supposedly compatible, and it is most days, but some days it ain't. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yep.
But no, it's been raining and it's been so hot up here. I guarantee you, there's some water in that air compressor. So when I get through with the live, I'll go out there and crack the valve and drain it. But I'm just gonna shut it off until then, so I don't run it hot trying to build up pressure on top of some water. I just drained it like last week. You wouldn't think it'd be that bad, but whatever. All right, it is officially 2 hours and 3 minutes. So there we go.
Successful in messing with everybody's Alexas.
Yeah.
Hey Alexa, play Baby Shark.
See, mine doesn't answer to that.
Well, maybe someone's did.
Yeah, if Brandy's in the house in there, one of those might have picked it up because I've got mine named differently.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so we just need to crack that code to get Brandy.
But yeah, it's I saw where Greg said it was going to probably be sweater weather. I figured it would be. I wasn't trying to jinx you the other day, but I was kind of leaning towards it might be after I retire. From looking at the progress photos, unless you've really got like some folks coming to get on it, because it takes a little while to put stuff together like that.
Well, I still have to see how things go. I'm looking into that.
She's sitting there listening to Baby Shark.
Nice. I'm looking at that work conference that's in Nashville.
Nashville.
Well, let's see. I think it's the third week. It's in the second half to late October. So
is this something? Is it you talking about for your work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought we had like, I was like, I
No,
knew there was
no.
one in Texas that we had discussed, but
How do you make it? You just got to let it play, Brandy.
just tell her to stop playing the music.
Hey, Alexa,
Oh
play
my
Baby
God.
Shark on repeat.
She is gonna get you. She is gonna get you. Hey, but I'm almost feel as though maybe that should be payback for deleting comments. Almost do. But
Now, hey, it's not like I said play it at full volume.
it is playing, or it was. I can stop it from here. I didn't know that. Oh me, she gonna get you.
Bill, I've on the smaller atom stack lenses, I have sent a few out recently for some people to test. Need a little more feedback to see if they'll work, and then I might do a limited run. I'm not sure how consistent those are coming out, so we'll see. But I don't have them just yet because they had to go with a smaller one. Made it difficult.
Brandy said she turned it down, but it's still going. Oh my gosh, she is gonna get you. It says it stopped, but it does show that it was playing some music though. But it says it stopped. I don't know.
This is why it's good to wear headphones when I'm indoors. She said it did finally stop.
So it's showing it stopped. But yeah, she did. She turned the volume down, but it ain't completely down. Oh my goodness. I guess I need to change that one to a different name so you can't get her no more. You'll just be running through the list. But now, oh, ew, it's still hot in here. So anything else? Anybody got any last questions, comments, or whatever? Why is it you never see baby pig? What? Radu's asking. What? I don't know. I don't do birds. Probably because I don't go looking for them. And they're tiny and they're ugly and they stay in the nest until they're grown. Let's see. I don't know what that says. It was probably buffered up and hand to clear before it's time. Oh, I don't know. No, I don't know. Our internet's pretty darn fast. So I don't know that she's not real good at talking to them, but you never know.
Did you turn voice recognition on and lock her out?
No. Now it does recognize me because it'll address me by name. But yeah, I've got mine pretty squared away, but she doesn't use them. Like, cause see, like I use it because you know how wives are. They'll take the remote and then like go to sleep or whatever, and the TV will be on or whatever. So I just can tell it to do whatever, like TV lights, back porch lights, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I got mine set up pretty good. This is pretty intense. But anyway, yeah, 2 hours and 8 minutes. So any more questions, comments, concerns? But did I mention I'm going to do me a 2-week review of my little lawnmower? But man, that thing's awesome, by the way. I ain't had to cut grass all week. My yard still looks acceptable. It's not the cure for cutting grass, but man, it makes it where you can get away with not having to do it near as often.
That's the review you want to hear. Makes my grass acceptable.
Yeah, well, the thing is it can't. It just can't like do the edging, like the weed eating and stuff. It just can't. There's places that it can't go here in my property, but like I would say 95% of it, it's knocking it out. So like I haven't touched the yard since I deployed it because I'm going to do like a 2 week of this. Robot's been keeping this part up, but this part hadn't been being cut. So I'm waiting 2 weeks before I do it. But dude, it's amazing. I love it. And then after I bought mine, of course, they dropped the price $500. So I'm a little salty about that.
Yeah, you know how that goes.
But whatever. Yeah, Greg, if I can get this machine that they keep saying they're going to send me in, the UV printer that I supposedly got coming, it's not a Eufy because Eufy don't like me. But the other one that I'm supposed to be getting, I'm going to print like some eyes and stuff from a little robot to make it look really cool when people come to the driveway.
Just get those big googly eyes.
Well, I can't put anything too tall on it because I'm afraid the LiDAR will pick it up because it's got the LiDAR dome on the top of it. So I thought about like 3D printing me like a head and a tail and making it look like a dog. But then I'm like, the LiDAR will just go crazy because it's going to be like hitting it constantly. So I can't do that. R. Ballard says, when I'm watching WWE, it will go off constantly when Alexa Bliss is on screen. Yeah, I guess it would. I don't watch a whole lot of that, but yeah. All right. No, Chris, it's not that kind. It ain't one of those that you can program it to cut shapes or nothing. It ain't that fancy. But it's doing me a good job so far for a while.
Well, you just got a map create the map right.
I mean, I guess I could.
It would take a lot of time.
Because I technically could. I could do like a smiley face. I could do a circle and then put like no-go zones in the nose and the mouth and everything. Technically, I guess I could draw one out, but yeah, that's too much work. It's hot out there. It was hard for me just mapping my yard. I was dying out there, guys. But yeah. Yeah, Brady says she thinks it needs blue lights on it since everybody keeps slowing down to see it. It's funny. We'll be sitting on the front porch and it's out there mowing, and cars will come by and you'll hear them like, ooh, they slow down. And they'll be looking at it as they drive by. And several of the neighbors have messaged me like, hey, what's that white thing wandering around your front yard? No, it's my lawnmower. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, as I said, don't make that thing like an animal. Biscuit will eat it. Biscuit don't do nothing but sleep. So that's all he does. He's over there sleeping right now. Got a cat sneaking around him. He ain't messing with it though. If anything, he lays down in front of it and goes to sleep and has to drive around him. It did do that a few times. But all right, I guess that's it, guys. So what we got coming up this week, Steve? You got anything special?
Well, I got to wrap up. I got to do some editing tomorrow. So hopefully Tuesday morning, I'll be launching that Sane Smart 3020 with all the Cody bits, the Cadence Manufacturing, the Jenny bits. So
Sweet.
Check that out. I tried to do a little bit of everything with that one. And then I have been working on some material testing with a couple lasers. And hopefully a couple of fun projects that I've been kind of putting off that are just more, I kind of have this ongoing. I'm trying to refresh the office decor at work. It's got a lot of airplane stuff. And I'm like, people don't necessarily know all the laser stuff I do. So I try to do one of those videos every so often. So we'll be working on some of those over the course of the week here. But primarily just going to get that Sane Smart thing out. Of course, then there's Prime Days. So I'll be keeping an eye out on some of the usual like supplies. That's what I like using Prime Days for, is you can usually stock up on things like, slate coasters and sometimes tumblers or pens. And so I'll try to throw some of those out on maybe my Facebook page or something if people want to see some of the deals I'm coming across, or maybe my community tab on YouTube. Always appreciate people using the links for that. Helps keeps those programs active with places and such. But as always, I'm just trying to give good information out there. I don't want people feeling like I'm a used car salesman.
Well, I don't know that you'd be a real good one. You're like me. You're gonna be like, yeah, this one right here gets bad gas mileage, and it's got a tear here, and oh, by the way, there's just smell that won't go away. Yeah, you wouldn't be a good. You'd be like me. But yeah, see, there's my mapping. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Cool.
But yeah, no doubt. If you are going to be doing any the Prime Days or Christmas in July or whatever my wife's calling it, stuff, like I said, like Steve said, feel free to use our links. I've got mine on my website. You've got a shopping tab too, don't you, on your website that they can go through?
Yeah, I need to update a couple of the new ones, but
as well as most every video that we put out, we put a link in there for Amazon. So it didn't cost you anything. It does help contribute to the funds. So it's a good way to, good way to help us without costing you anything. So good to see. Stephen Tillman is saying that he saw the Clanton Peach going and coming from Pensacola last week. Yep, that would be you were very close if you saw that. So yeah, there you go. All right. Well, until next time, guys, I guess we're gonna call it. And 87 more days. It will officially be 80 days, I guess. Sunday, or will it be 81? It'll be 81, won't it? Yeah. Because technically it's not gonna count. It's like not -7 technically. It's -6.
I guess we'll find out next week, won't we?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out one day at a time. We're gonna take it one day at a time. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you. Y'all have a good one.
We'll see everyone.